Why are you saying Background. The government has set out to implement the rationalization of agencies and public expenditure policy in the most uncoordinated, disorganized and archaic manner. 7 months into the 2024-25 financial year, several previously provided services by closed agencies remain unassigned. Some of these agencies used to collect fees, non-tax revenue, for the government. Closing them is a double loss for the country. Not only are essential services no longer being provided, the government is also losing out on crucial revenue. The agencies were summarily closed before ministries and bodies supposed to take over their functions were ready to do so. In some cases, Ministry of Public Service, the main sponsor of rationalization, is yet to approve new staff structures. Some of the staff for the closed agencies stopped receiving salaries in December. Their fate remains unknown and may struggle taking their children to school this term. This human-induced suffering, similar to the Kitez landfill catastrophe of last year, is playing out in many agencies. The money, budgets, EU Parliament appropriated for agencies in May 2024 for service delivery remain unutilized because of the break in service provision occasioned by this unplanned transition. Everybody knows that the NRM is allergic to orderly and peaceful transfer of power. What maybe we didn't know is that this organization is the way they work. This is because all decisions are made by one man and offloaded on two others for implementation. Sometimes the implementers don't know what he wants and they cannot easily access him for clarification. This motion by 40-year-old Honorable Henry Musasi Zarganyira, born February 25, 1981, about a month into Mr. Museveni's Luwero War, is another evidence of what we are talking about, as you will see later. Areas of dissent. I like cheering. When you are cheering and I am reading, I like it. Areas of dissent. Non-compliance with the law, piecemeal implementation, disorganized transition, misinformation, misleading to Parliament. Non-compliance with the law. The motion by Honorable Musasi, tabled in Parliament on December 19, 2024, is asking you to casually move huge sums of taxpayers' money across entities in total disregard of Article 156 of the Constitution and Public Finance Management Act. Section 15 of the Public Finance Management Act states, after approval of the annual budget by Parliament, the Secretary to Treasury shall issue the annual cash flow plan of government based on the procurement plans, work plans, and recruitment plans approved by Parliament. I have underlined the word approved by Parliament. Right Honourable Speaker, the motion presented by Finance Minister referred only to revised work plans. It ignored the recruitment and procurement plans. But even what was attached to the motion as work plans are just some lousy statements that do not constitute a work plan even to a high school student. The minister must, as a matter of law, table procurement plans, recruitment plans, and credible work plans that are costed. That should again be sent to our sectoral committees for scrutiny. Scrutinizing these plans is a function of sectoral committees and not a standing committee on the budget. This motion can only stand if it is amended to include tabling of a supplementary budget that will be sent to the sectoral committees for scrutiny before it is finally processed by the budget committee. And this must be done under Section 25 of the Public Finance Management Act on supplementary budgets. This is not a mere reallocation under Section 19 of the Public Finance Management Act. The only reallocation in the motion from one existing vote to another vote relates to Uganda National Registration Services Bureau, which is ceding registration of marriages to National Identification Registration Authority, NIRA. Here, only one function is moving from one entity to another. What does the Constitution say? The Constitution in Article 156 provides a solution. It allows ministries and agencies that have taken over other functions and they don't have money to perform them to request for a supplementary budget. It states, if in respect of any financial year it is found, A, that the amount appropriated for any purpose under the Appropriation Act is insufficient, and mark the word insufficient, or that a need has arisen for expenditure for purpose for which no amount has been appropriated by that act, or B, that any monies have been expended for any purpose in excess of the amount appropriated for that purpose, or for a purpose for which no amount has been appropriated by that act. A supplementary estimate showing the sums required or spent shall be laid down before Parliament, and in the case of excess expenditure within 4 months after the money is spent. The minister knows the rest of the process you go through that follows a supplementary budget, including a supplementary appropriation bill that eventually should amend the Appropriation Act. Our contention is that what the Minister of Finance wants Parliament to do is a budget revision and not a reallocation. The budget is revised through a supplementary process under Section 25 of the Public Finance Management Act and not through a motion for reallocation under Section 19. Peaceful implementation. The motion by the Minister requests transfer of budgets in respect of 13 agencies. Yet Parliament approved the rationalization of more than 20 and they all commenced around the same time in August. In fact, the Budget Committee processed the request for 13 agencies and the report was duly signed by members. This report, the Vice Chair, who I referred to earlier, said was to be presented on Tuesday, February 4th. On the morning of Wednesday, February 5th, the Vice Chair, the Chair, without following our rules on meetings, called another meeting to also process UNRWA and Road Fund and others. Parliament cannot work that way. If the executive is disorganized, don't apply to join them. And this is how they even process the annual budget. You remember how addendums were being trafficked into the plenary midway the appropriation. This is what they are doing. This morning, as we are finishing signing this, they are bringing another motion that UNRWA is here and others. What does the motion say? Uganda Registration Services Bureau. You will excuse me, I may repeat some of the information, but it's important. The motion seeks to transfer 1 billion from Registration Services Bureau to National Identification Registration Authority. This is to cater for civil registration such as marriages, which is being transferred to NIRA. This transfer reduces the budget of Registration Services Bureau from 43.8 to 42.8 billion. The bill to effect this change was assented to on July 15, 2024. It increases the budget of NIRA from 100.3 billion to 101.3 billion. Please note that the amount proposed for transfer in the original motion are different from what the minister presented as additional information to the Budget Committee. In the motion, the minister proposed transfer of 1.7 billion for the services to NIRA. Yet some of the money had already been spent. And you need to look at both schedules, the one that came with the motion and the one he brought before the committee. National Population Council was abolished and function transferred to National Planning Authority. The bill abolishing it, which was a repeal, was assented to on July 15, 2024. It had an approved recurrent budget of 6.8 billion Finance released 2.1 billion to the agency. What remains is 4.6, which this motion seeks to transfer. For development, the Population Council was allocated 104.1 million for a whole year. With 4 months remaining, the minister wants all of it transferred, what remains to NPA. The minister requires additional funds to cater for their enhanced salary. Please take note that the former staff of the Population Council have had their salaries enhanced because the entity they have joined pays higher salaries. So more money here is required, but they are talking about a saving. National Physical Planning Board abolished and function transferred to National Planning Authority. The bill abolishing it was assented to on July 15th. The 900 million meant to run the Physical Planning Board was part of the 111.5 billion Ministry of Land's budget, which as a result of this transfer reduces to 110.6 billion. When you transfer the budget of Population Council and the Physical Planning Board to NPA, you are increasing the budget of NPA from 62.8 billion to 70.3 billion. Uganda National Meteorological Authority was abolished and function transferred to Ministry of Water. The bill abolishing it was assented to on June 14, 2024. The total budget for this entity was 14.3 billion recurrent and 263.3 million development. 3 billion was released before the eventual closure. The 11 billion point 3 was not released, from which the finance now wants to transfer part of it, 6.9, to Ministry of Water. This will eventually increase the budget of Ministry of Water from 25.6 billion to 32.5 billion. Uganda Wildlife Education Center was merged with Uganda Wildlife Authority. The bill merging them was assented to on July 15th. The total budget for the wildlife education was 14.8 billion, shilling 7.43 billion was released before the merger, leaving a balance of 7.43 billion. The minister wants 4.2 billion transferred, leaving a balance of 3.15 billion. The point for you to note is that not all the budgets are being moved. Some of the money remains in air.